Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining the League of Women Voters for a candidates forum for the Yolo County Supervisors District 2 elections. I just want to note that this is also co-sponsored by Davis Media Access, who will be videoing the forum. The League is a nonpartisan organization committed to voter education and voter registration. And we ask you to, if you want to learn more about the League, to check our website at www.lwvdavisarea.org. And on your way out, there's little cards there that you can pick up with that information on it also. This forum will feature two candidates today for the position, and Juliette Beck, to my right, and Lucas Frerichs from my left. The forum will be moderated by Donna Neville down here. And I just wanted to thank Donna for being our moderator. She's done a great job for other forums too. And Donna, also of course a Davis resident and a semi-retired lawyer. During her legal career, she served as chief legal counsel to the two state agencies, the independent nonpartisan California State Auditor's Office and the State Board of Education. Earlier in her career, she worked as an attorney for the Office of Legislative Counsel, where she advised legislators and their staffs on issues related to the environment and education. In her retirement, she has served as the former chairperson of the Davis Joint Unified School District for Measure M Bond Oversight Committee, and currently serves as the chair of the Davis Finance and Budget Committee. She's a member of the Yolo, the National Alliance for Mentally Ill. She is a passionate advocate for government and accountability and openness, and we just welcome her and thank her very much for serving the League in this capacity. So I will turn it over to her. Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm going to first tell you the two candidates. I did that, didn't I? And so I'll turn it over to Donna for the moderating the panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary Jo. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks to all of you who are here on this beautiful spring day. My name is Donna Neville, and I'll be the moderator for today's forum. To our audience, if you have a question that you would like to have posed to the candidates at the end of the moderated portion of this forum, please write your question down on the index card that you've been provided when you walked in. And please also be sure to address your question to both candidates. And then we'll be taking those questions later in the forum. Today we have two candidates for the elected position of Yolo County Supervisorial District 2, Ms. Juliette Beck and Mr. Lucas Frerichs, and we've asked each of them to provide us with a brief bio, and I'm going to read those to you now. Juliette Beck is a visionary and accomplished champion of progressive social change. Juliette brings 30 years of experience organizing with communities on the front lines for racial, environmental, and economic justice. She is an expert in developing transformative grassroots strategies to challenge unjust, unsustainable economic policies such as water privatization. As the main intellectual architect of the Yolo County Climate Action Commission, Juliette is playing a leading role in advancing a regional, just, and inclusive transition off fossil fuels by 2030. She is running to be the first woman elected to the Yolo County Board of Supervisors since 2006. Learn more about her Buen Vivir Living Well platform, which emphasizes climate resilience, youth empowerment, and an inclusive economy at electbeck.org. Welcome, Ms. Beck. And our bio of Mr. Frerichs. Lucas Frerichs has served on the Davis City Council since 2012 and currently serves as vice mayor. Lucas currently serves on the boards and is former board chair of the following agencies: Sacramento Area Council of Governments, SACOG, Capital Corridor JPA, or Amtrak California, Yolo County Transportation District, Yolo Bus, and Valley Clean Energy, VCE, Yolo County's clean energy power provider. Lucas's public service began as a longtime staffer in the California State Assembly, working for 4 separate assembly members. With 15 years of experience working in the halls of the state capitol, Lucas currently works as Associate Director of State Policy for the Nature Conservancy, where he is responsible for advocating on behalf of the environment environment before the California State Legislature and numerous state agencies. He received his BA in government from California State University, Sacramento, and earned a certificate in land use and environmental planning from UC Davis. He lives in Central Davis with his wife, Stacy, who is executive director of the Davis Art Center. They enjoy the antics of their frisky pup, Berryessa. Welcome, Mr. Frerichs. So before we move into a description of the format of today's forum, I want to just give you a brief sense of what the role of county government is, because I think it gives you a really great perspective on how extensive are the responsibilities of those who are elected to serve on a county board of supervisors. The role that California's 58 counties play in local government is very broad, and it often surprises people when they learn about the many functions that county government performs. Counties in California act as agents of the state and provide a long list of services throughout the county. These include law enforcement, operation of county jails, maintaining vital records, property assessment and record keeping, tax collection, public health, healthcare, social services, libraries, flood control, fire protection, animal control, agricultural regulation, building inspections, ambulance services, and so on. County government also serves as the primary local government for all unincorporated areas, that is, those not within the boundaries of an incorporated city, but providing such services as police, parks, street maintenance, land use regulation, zoning, and waste disposal. In our county, Yolo, the government is made up of 19 different departments with an annual operating budget of approximately $600 million, and it serves a population of approximately 220,000 people. Most counties in California, including Yolo, are governed by a 5-member elected governing body, the County Board of Supervisors, which has ultimate responsibility for managing all of these governmental functions. So I think that gives you a real sense of the breadth of the role. So next I want to just give a quick run through of the format for today's forum and go over some ground rules. And these have been provided to the candidates previously, but just so the audience knows what to expect. This afternoon we will begin with a 2-minute opening statement from each of the candidates, and a coin flip before the forum determined that Ms. Beck will go first. The forum will then start with 6 moderated questions, followed by a 30-minute period of audience questions, after which each candidate will give a closing statement. Audience members in attendance, you've all received question cards outside at the door when you come in, and we'll collect those either now at the beginning of the forum, and again we'll collect them around midway through the questioning. So I'll take a pause and we'll collect them again. Following the audience questions and responses at about 4:20, each candidate will have a 1-minute opportunity for a closing statement, starting with the candidate who gave their opening statement second. So next, I just want to run through the forum ground rules quickly. So audience members, throughout the forum, we ask that members of the audience refrain from applauding or in any other way demonstrating support or non-support for any candidate until the end of the forum. At the end of the forum, we will ask for your applause for both candidates. We really appreciate your attendance this afternoon, and we want everyone to feel welcome. And we hope that there will be no disruptions. And I am especially grateful for your attendance today, because I know it is a very beautiful spring day out there. So thank you for being engaged and coming to this event. So our questions. Our 6 moderated questions have been prepared by Davis League Voter Service members. 4 of the questions were sent to the candidates for their review a week prior to the forum, and we're going to alternate responses to the questions so that candidate 1 goes first on one question and candidate 2 on the next, and so on. Each candidate has 90 seconds for their primary response. And to help us keep on track, our forum timekeeper, Nikki Neff, who is sitting to my left, will hold up a yellow card when there are 15 seconds remaining and a red card when your time has expired. And when both of you have had the opportunity to respond to a question, you'll each have the opportunity to offer a single 40-second follow-up response. And I will ask if anyone wants to offer a follow-up, and whoever says yes first, I will take that, and then the other person who wishes to offer a follow-up. And you'll each have 1 follow-up opportunity for each question. And then I'll move on to the next question. And finally, just a word about audience questions. I just mentioned earlier that you've been asked to fill out your question cards. Some others may have already submitted questions online in advance of this afternoon's forum. And then the questions will be collected by 2 different league volunteers who are in the audience, and then they'll go through the questions and screen them and prioritize them so that we ensure a good range of topics and issues. And again, when you write a question, please pose it to both candidates. Again, the candidates are limited to 1 follow-up response for each audience question, and the candidate that answers second to a moderated question will answer first on the next question, and so on. We'll rotate. So very good. So now, with that, we are ready to move into our opening statements. And based on the coin flip, Ms. Beck, you will go first and have an opportunity to make your opening statement. So please go ahead.
Let's try again. Hello and welcome. Thank you everyone for being here. It is such an honor to be part of your community on such a beautiful day. And thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting this and bringing democracy back in action after the long hiatus during the pandemic. My name is Juliette Beck. I've been a community member here raising my family in Davis for the past 13 years, but we are as a family not new to the Central Valley. In fact, I'm raising the 5th generation of a Central Valley family. I have deep roots. My grandparents, my great-grandparents were in the farming community, living in Visalia, and have been agricultural engineers. They went to UC Berkeley, and I followed in their footsteps. The College of Natural Resources provided me a foundation for the 30 years of advocacy, policymaking, and innovative solutions to some of our most complex problems here in California. Issues like water privatization, issues like sustainable trade and economy building, issues like homelessness and poverty. These are things that I've worked on day in, day out as a community member, often behind the scenes, but with governments in a collaborative way. I've stepped into the race because I was actually appalled that not enough women have stepped up into this seat. How can we have an inclusive government in Yolo County if we have no women on the board? Okay, this is not an inclusive modern democracy. And I needed to show my children that I am someone who actually puts their efforts and their actions where our values are. So I have the endorsement of my children and my family and Indigenous women, women from all backgrounds who are grateful. Men as well have been extremely supportive because we know that when women step into office, progressive change happens. And that's why I'm running for office. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beck. Mr. Frerichs, your opening statement.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, firstly, thanks so much to the League of Women Voters and to Davis Media Access for sort of co-hosting this event today. Really appreciate it. It is really nice to finally be back in person after a couple of years of so much virtual meetings. So thank you for that. I think more than anything right now, Yolo County needs leaders who really understand how the process works, who help bring partners together, and really who can help get things done. And I think it's important for our county to continue to engage with regional partners to strengthen our economy, of course, protecting our planet, and to keep our communities safe, healthy, and thriving. And I love working for you. I have been fortunate to serve on the Davis City Council for the last 10 years and currently serve as vice mayor. And I'm really proud that during the COVID pandemic, our community came together, firstly with the university and the city of Davis, and then expanded to throughout Yolo County with Healthy Davis together and ultimately Healthy Yolo together. And I think we based our decisions on facts, science, and compassion. We're on our way to making a full recovery, but there's a lot of work left to do. So I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you today. I have a lot of priorities that I think are important for the year ahead or the years ahead. We'll be getting into those as well later on. But if I'm elected to the County Board of Supervisors, I'll continue to be just as responsive and accessible as your county supervisor as I've been as a member of the City Council. And I'm honored to have many current and elected former elected officials, but many of whom are some of the most well-known women in this community over the last 30, 40 years. First woman on the Board of Supervisors, Betsy Marchand, Helen Thompson, Lois Wolk, Delane Easton, and so many more. And so really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you all today, and we'll talk to you all in a little bit more. Thanks.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Frerichs. So now we're going to move on to our moderated questions. And this time, the first respondent will be Mr. Frerichs. So we'll begin with that question. Mr. Frerichs, what do you see as the 3 most pressing issues for Yolo County government to address right now? And what are the most pressing issues for District 2?
Yes, well, thanks so much. It's interesting. There's this question about what are the most, very few pressing issues. It's been mentioned earlier, counties do such a major amount of work across the board. So there are definitely a couple of key things, though, that I think are top of mind that need to be worked on and with a lot of haste. One, first of all, there's some issues around key staff turnover at the county. It was just announced the county has a new county administrative officer, and that there has been a revolving door there for the past couple of years. So some of the major departments, including the Health and Human Services Agency department head, have also been transitioning. So there's a real need to sort of bring some stability, first of all, to the sort of county government structure. Absolutely, the issues around climate change induced threats here in Yolo County, the things I've been hearing about primarily when folks throughout the county, not just in District 2, but are, of course, drought. That's the first and foremost issue that people raise, but also, especially on the western part of the county, the risks of wildfire. And that's a very, very important issue and of concern to the folks in winters especially. And it was mentioned earlier in the description of what counties really do. Counties really exist to provide human and social services to those that need them most. And there are so many programs. Mental health services is a key priority of mine, but also childcare, IHSS services, in-home supportive services, public health, and so many other responsibilities are key. And then lastly, I think, there are some real issues in District 2 that need to be worked on, including right now there's a real work on Interstate 505 Russell Interchange in winters. That's a key priority for District 2. And I think ensuring that Yolo County is a place that continues to be affordable to live, we have to work on that, but welcoming to all and has opportunities from cradle to career. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frerichs. Ms. Beck, would you like me to repeat the question? I'm happy to do that if you'd like.
Sure.
So what do you see as the 3 most pressing issues for Yolo County government to address right now, and what are the most pressing issues for District 2?
Mm-hmm. Well, the 3 most pressing issues for Yolo County are climate, climate, and climate. We are on the front lines of an epic, unprecedented climate crisis. We've seen extended drought, that with no end in sight. Already our groundwater has dropped 10 feet from last year all across the county. We're on the front lines of wildfire, as Lucas mentioned, and all the issues that we care about in the county and that we need to address in the county are going to be exacerbated. The problems of inequality, homelessness, the lack of food security, the lack of water, all of these issues are only going to be worsened by the existing climate crisis if we do not get off of our addiction, cure our addiction to greenhouse gas emissions. So this is an unprecedented undertaking that we need to organize and mobilize, which I've been leading the effort to. The experience I've brought already to this county, I've dedicated hours and hours, if not years, of pro bono consultation work to innovate our governance structure. Because what's missing from the county is not the resources and the know-how and the people, it's the leadership. It's the leadership. So I intend to bring leadership to the county to address our most pressing issues that are only going to be exacerbated by the climate crisis. I'm also concerned very much about the issue of childhood obesity, and I want to talk about more of that as well coming up in the minute.
Okay, thank you. Would either of you like to do a follow-up to that? Follow-up to one another's responses? No follow-up. Very good. So
I'm happy to do a follow-up.
okay, sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I've been really impressed with Yolo County staffing and their governance. They have the Agri Commissioner was hired recently in the last couple of years, Humberto Izquierda. They're prioritizing equity in their choices. They've hired a new sustainability coordinator for the work that I've been championing at the county. So I'm actually seeing a lot of progress, and I feel like there are issues around that Lucas mentioned around this need for innovation at the county. They're in good hands, and I'm very proud. I would be very proud to work with staff and my colleagues on the Board of Supervisors to ensure a well-run county in the future.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to move on to the next question, and this time, Ms. Beck, you will be the first to respond to the second question. Unfunded county liabilities, and I know that's a phrase not everyone knows what that means. It refers to county debt where there's not enough money set aside to pay that debt. For Yolo County, they're currently estimated to be $892 million. In light of these unfunded liabilities, what's your overall assessment of county finances? And if elected, what policy goals would you pursue with respect to county finances?
Well, transparency is absolutely key. The issue of the unfunded liabilities, I've been looking into it. I've been, met with Chad Rinde, the Chief Financial Officer and acting interim administrator for the county, to talk about exactly the finances and the budgeting process for Yolo County to get up to speed on those very important aspects of the supervisor's role. So I actually think that the county is in good financial shape. These are unfunded liabilities, I believe, related to pensions. And we are going to have to find a way to make sure that in the future going forward that we don't continue to commit or overcommit to pensions that we don't have the best financing for. But currently we need to honor our pensions that we have on the books, if those are the unfunded liabilities that you're talking about, because I'd like to see more transparency about where those issues are. And if it has to do with infrastructure, so road and maintenance, then we need to make sure that we have the funding to cover those projects when they're approved.
Thank you. Mr. Frerichs, same question. Would you like me to repeat it?
No, I'm good, thank you. Yeah. Well, I mean, first and foremost, this is an issue that's affecting, the issues around unfunded liabilities are an issue that affects pretty much all local governments in California and, frankly, most local governments around the country. So we're not sort of alone in that situation. Some are much better than others, in much better shape. I think Yolo currently is its funded ratio is approximately 65%. So there's a lot more work to do, certainly, as it relates to the issues around unfunded liabilities. But compared to many other local governments, it's actually doing a decent job. I think the current Board of Supervisors has been pretty adept at figuring out how some solutions in terms of how to increase the contributions from the county, and so in terms of towards its OPEB and other post-employment benefits, OPEB, that acronym. But I think that there's certainly more work to do. It's interesting in purposes of the city of Davis. I mean, what we've done here is obviously there's a couple of ways to get at this issue: increasing revenue, so to be able to put additional revenues into the general fund towards benefits and pensions, but also ensuring that employees also are taking on some of the burden as well. So it's not just a county position that is only that the county is the ones putting in, but that sharing that sort of load with the employees. So, for example, in the city of Davis, we had years ago had an employee cash out in lieu of healthcare benefits of approximately $1,500 per month. That was about 10 years ago. This current city council has ratcheted it down to about $300 per month maximum, so per employee as a benefit. So there are ways to sort of get at some of these unfunded pension liability issues.
Great, thank you. Would either of you like to do a follow-up response?
The part of the question was about general fiscal policy and ideas around fiscal policy, correct? Yes.
Yes.
Well, I wanted to mention that one of the innovations that I've seen very effective with the use of the ARP funding, the American Recovery Plan funding, is the introduction of participatory budgeting that gives people more input into the actual have a voice in where dollars are spent. And this is the way to engage people from marginalized communities, historically communities that haven't participated in the budgeting process, to realize that they have a voice and a stake in the work of the government, in the work of the county, to restore trust and to bring projects directly to communities. I think things like participatory budgeting should be explored and should be implemented here in Yolo County, as along with Marin County and other places nearby.
Great, thank you. Any other follow-up? Nope.
Participatory budgeting is great. I fully support the implementation of PB at the county level.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to move on now to our third question, and this time, Mr. Frerichs, you'll be the first respondent. What specific approaches do you support for providing more affordable housing in Yolo County, and what actions would you urge the County Board of Supervisors to take to further those approaches?
Yeah, we're experiencing a housing crisis, obviously, in Yolo County and throughout California. And so, there's a lot that needs to be done to address that. First of all, there is obviously an issue of increasing supply of housing, whether it's infill or, when possible. But the county doesn't, frankly, do a lot of development of housing. It's been left very much to the cities to do that. But in terms of the affordable housing side of it, there's a lot that the county and the cities are doing together in collaboration on the issues of homelessness, funding the building of units. Paul's Place micro units construction project is happening right now. That is a perfect example of the county investing $1 million, the city investing $1 million in that project as an example to provide much needed affordable housing in our community. But yet that's just one tool in the toolkit, right? The daytime respite center, there's all these needs. And so we're looking for a permanent location currently in Davis for sanctioned camping. That's been underway, and that's really something that's a key priority as well. And, there's also, I think the county really does help to provide a lot of funding for wraparound services. So it's not just about making sure that there's adequate affordable housing options, but also ensuring that populations that are using those affordable housing options actually have access to services as well. I think it's just imperative as well for the county to continue to work with the private sector too. So like the nonprofit housing providers, healthcare providers, the interfaith community, and other partners, such as UC Davis as well, even to make sure that we provide additional resources and additional options for housing throughout the county.
Thank you. Ms. Beck, what specific approaches do you support for providing more affordable housing in Yolo County, and what actions would you urge the County Board of Supervisors to take to further those approaches?
Well, I support a lot of what Lucas said, but I won't repeat what that was. I really support innovation with the county. I think the county has a very important role to play in affordable housing because right now we're experiencing a market failure, and the county can, even though our priority is preserving farmland, I think we have an opportunity to evolve, to have a new type of ecological, cooperative co-housing on county land that would allow us to build small, tiny homes where people could afford to live for $500 to $1,000 a month in a way that's completely ecologically sustainable. City of Davis was one of the first places in the country to bring co-housing. The Muir Commons is a co-housing facility that's been well loved. Dos Pinos, N Street, these are places where people are dying to live. There's long waiting lists. Co-housing should be brought to the county with first in prioritizing agricultural workers. There's a shortage of housing for agricultural workers. So communities can come together and create a plan. And when they get organized, they'll find, I believe that working with the county, we can work with the private financing that Lucas has mentioned and find ways to build housing more affordably with the land that we have, closer to infill as a priority, obviously, but also ecologically sustainable communities where they can share cars and share resources, but also have a very low carbon footprint. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Would either of you like to respond to the others' comments? Mr. Frerichs?
Yeah, I think the concept of certainly co-housing is important. I would love to know, if possible, is it okay to ask a question, or is that no?
Basically, you have 40 seconds to respond.
Yeah, I guess I would love to know where you would propose to put some of this type of housing on county land. I would be curious about that.
Well, I think the first start would be where the DISC project is proposed. It's farmland, and it's over 100 acres. It's being proposed to be paved over and put into, 4-7 stories of commercial real estate that I don't believe will be vacant. I believe it will stay vacant and that they will not live up to its promises. So I think we have already, if the county is going to get involved in changing its zoning, then there should be truly ecological housing built on county land, closest to the places like Disc. That property outside Mace Boulevard is a very good example of where it should be built.
Great, thank you. So I am going to move on now to our next question, and this time, Ms. Beck, you will be the first respondent. As we've been discussing, climate change is a major concern. Related to that, we are currently in a severe drought and live in a county with significant agricultural interests. How would you balance the needs of urban and agricultural water users in reducing water use?
Mm-hmm. Well, this is a very important question. Agriculture in Yolo County uses about 96% of the water, and urban water uses about 4 to 5%. But we all need to do our part in reducing water use and prioritizing water conservation. But we do need much better data from the agricultural users to understand what's happening with our groundwater and the depletion of the groundwater. It's completely unsustainable right now. Half of the county is not going to get the allocation of water from surface water deliveries from Clear Lake, and so that means that they're going to be pumping. Anything you see growing this year is going to be pumped from the groundwater. Wells are going dry, and this is an urgent emergency. And I believe that rural community residents, we need to be convening a drought emergency response working group to make sure that no one's water is going out without water. The rural fire departments are in charge of water deliveries when rural residents have their wells go dry and they can't afford to build or drill or get a drill rig out on their property quickly enough. So is that water potable? Is it accessible? Those are the solutions that we can work together. I know the county is already on top of some of this, but there needs to be a lot more work, and we need to shift to ecological, restorative, regenerative, natural, low water use landscapes here in Davis and elsewhere in urban settings.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Frerichs, same question.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's no question that climate change is the existential threat to our communities and our planet. And, you know, for me personally, I work as the state policy director for the Nature Conservancy, and so I work on these issues and trying to affect state policy as it relates to climate policy every day. And more locally, obviously, work on issues around Valley Clean Energy and some of the other organizations that serve on the board of, where we're really focused on making sure that we're responding to the threats of both drought but also wildfire risk. You know, agriculture, of course, is the county's main and economic driver, and the continued effects of drought are going to continue to play, I think, an ever-increasing role in Yolo County. It's very, very important, whether it's in urban areas or in rural areas of the county. And I think, you know, the notion of whether it's a working group, but a countywide sort of water summit, bringing everyone together. And this is not when one or the other of us gets elected and then comes to the Board of Supervisors in January. This needs to be happening now. The county needs to be demonstrating leadership and convening folks together, inviting all to the table. The cities, UC Davis, Yochadihi tribal leadership, farmers, water districts, environmental justice advocates. Everybody needs to be coming to the table to figure out how we can do additional reduction, conservation, recycling, and reimagining the water usage here in Yolo County. I think there's really a lot more that can be done, and I look forward to getting into that in a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Would either of you like to provide a responsive answer?
Yes.
Please, Ms. Beck.
So the Yolo Climate Action Commission, which I've been instrumental in establishing, has the space for this working group. So I hope that it will be constituted exactly what Lucas just suggested, which is now. So that infrastructure to create that kind of working group that brings all the collaborators together to the table is accessible now, not because people like me have stepped up to create that at the county level. The city of Davis is still working on its climate action plan. We've declared a climate emergency here in 2018. We have no support in our planning right now with an innovative climate action plan in the city of Davis. And I find that to be completely irresponsible and negligent. So I want to say that we are when it comes to the drought, we have the right people at the table already. And you're welcome to join us at the Yolo Climate Action Commission. It's open to everyone. The working groups will be starting up hopefully this May, and this upcoming meeting, their May meeting, is where they'll be appointing this, and this will be the first priority for me, is to make sure that the drought emergency working group gets off the ground.
Great, thank you. Any further response, Mr.
Yeah,
Frerichs?
absolutely. Yeah, I think there's a lot being done in the agricultural sector already. I mean, switching to low water crops, obviously drip irrigation, and even dry farming efforts across the county. But I think that there's a lot more that needs to happen. I think that UC Davis is doing a lot of climate and ag research, especially as it relates to sort of the changing climate throughout different farms in the county. They're working very, very closely with a lot of the farmers. The urban areas I think really have a lot of room for improvement as well. Though, removing unnecessary turf. Focusing on instead focusing on the watering of trees as an example. Tree Davis is a partner of the city, of course, working on climate-ready landscapes, sort of what the county, but also the cities are going to look like in the future, and so planning those types of landscapes. Woodland is also right now doing something super innovative. They're injecting treated effluent back into the groundwater to raise the groundwater table up. That's something we need to be doing in Davis and across the county as well.
Great, thank you. I'm going to take a slight pause here to allow some of the league volunteers to move around the room and collect any questions that audience members may have written down. And we'll just take just a minute or two here to give them a chance to move around. If you have any questions you'd like to have presented, we have a couple more moderated questions, and then we'll move into audience Q&A. Great. Thank you. So we'll move back to the rest of our moderated questions. And this question, the first respondent will be Mr. Frerichs. The many social services offered by the county act as an important safety net. Given that you'll always have limited funding, what changes would you make to the social services delivered by the county? If you would enhance services, how would you fund those enhanced services?
A couple of things. Well, yes. I mean, the issues around social services are very, very important. I mean, in terms of what counties do in terms of the delivery of all the types of work they do. I think in two areas I would focus. One is the initiation of the Crisis Now partnership that is underway, but between Yolo County and the three cities. Winters hasn't joined us yet, and UC Davis is also going to contribute. But the ability, the issues around mental health are basically at crisis levels before the pandemic, and the lingering effects of mental health on all ages are really, really important. So that's an area that we are committing additional American Rescue Plan dollars towards. And there's also going to be some long-term funding coming from the state to help fund that program. But that's very exciting, and looking forward to seeing that in place over the course of the next year. I think also one issue of importance to me is the in-home supportive services IHSS program. There are many, many individuals in Yolo County that receive in-home supportive services. This has been money for caregivers who have individuals in their homes who they're responsible for that may have disabilities or other challenges. And so that money is very, very important, and it was cut during the Great Recession back in 2010. It was only restored to just the 2010 levels this last year in 2021. So there's been no increase in the funding to IHSS programming at the county level above and beyond what was originally being spent back in 2010. So that's an area, if I get elected, I will be really focused on trying to figure out additional resources for that pot of money. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. Ms. Beck, the same question. Would you like me to run through it again? It's kind of a lengthy question.
Sure.
The many social services offered by the county act as an important safety net. Given that you'll always have limited funding, what changes would you make to the social services delivered by the county? If you would enhance services, how would you fund those enhanced services?
Yeah. So I think that during the pandemic, we learned the value of a really robust and healthy and well-funded county public health department. So I would really want to work closely with Amy Sasson to look at what happened and worked well during the pandemic to now parlay and transition and pivot into addressing the climate crisis. I'm particularly concerned about the youth and opportunities for youth to address increasing anxiety and mental health within our young people populations. One of the ways to actually be preventative before we have to get into a crisis that we have to respond to is to connect youth to nature. We live in this absolutely gorgeous, beautiful place. And with the programs that we could partner with, I've already met with Garth Lewis of the Superintendent of Schools. He is interested in partnering more to make outdoor education accessible to young people, outdoor opportunities for recreation and camping and mountain biking. These are the things that we've seen proven over and over again that get children into a better pathway for their health, for their lifetime, to invest in a lifetime of activities that early on to have healthier outcomes throughout their life. That means that we work and invest in our youth. So the social services that we are already maintaining as a county, I think we have a very strong social safety net. I'd like to see a lot more being done as well with school gardens and addressing food insecurity through food sovereignty.
Thank you. Would either one of you like to provide a follow-up response? Mr. Frerichs?
Yeah, I think one other area that is of key concern is the issues around childcare and across the county. I mean, there's Yolo First 5 does a fantastic job, but there was this is so again one of these situations where the cities, the county, First 5, a variety of agencies need to come together to sort of fill some of the needs. There have been over 1,000 childcare slots lost throughout the county during the pandemic. So that breaks down. It's mostly about 250 individuals, but about 1,000 childcare slots specifically that are no longer an option for working parents in Yolo County. And so those issues around childcare and the cost of childcare were these are the subsidized childcare slots I'm talking about throughout the county. Those were already very much at a premium before the pandemic, and now it's even harder for working families to find, and those families that most need childcare options to find them.
Thank you. Ms. Beck, any follow-up?
Yeah. One of the things that I'm most proud of that I've done as a parent was I was part of a cooperative of families that shared childcare for our children early on, and we had 6 families that provided childcare in our homes, and we worked part-time, but we also had the care of other parents, and it was a support system for each of us as parents as well. And I think that's the kind of innovation that we can accomplish in the county. I've already spoken and worked with the Children's Alliance of Yolo County, and they love these ideas. So I bring lived experience that is lacking in the supervisors right now, and I want to share that with the county moving forward.
Great, thank you. So I have one more moderated question, and then after that, we're going to move to audience Q&A. This time, Ms. Beck, you'll be the first to respond. What are the top 3 things you intend to accomplish if elected, and how will this impact Yolo County?
Say that again.
What are the top 3 things you intend to accomplish if elected, and how will this impact Yolo County?
Top 3 things. So we're working, this is right off my platform, which is based on the indigenous concept of it's called Buen Vivir, to live well. So it's a framework very much consistent with the Yolo County's own plan currently, their own strategic plan to have thriving and healthy communities. But it's to actually look at the economic system. So the first thing I want to do is invest in community wealth building. We need to understand that cooperatives that are community-owned, whether they're housing cooperatives, farming cooperatives, or our very own Davis Food Cooperative, is how we regenerate wealth into our community rather than having it hemorrhage into the global economy where it becomes more speculative and drives the unsustainable economic system that we're dealing with. So that's number 1. I want to build an inclusive economy as well, and I want to see youth empowerment. I'm glad that the Youth Commission might get off the ground this month within the Yolo County, but I'd like to see youth at the table where decisions about their future are being made. When youth get to the table, there's a greater sense of possibility about what the changes are, the root causes of the changes become obvious, and the solutions become much more innovative. I mentioned earlier my concerns about childhood obesity. We have a 40% childhood obesity rate in Yolo County. The solutions that I'm suggesting around access to nature and engaging children in our natural areas, outdoor education, training, stewardship, those kinds of solutions, I think would be very good investment for our future generations.
Great, thank you. Mr. Frerichs, same question.
Sure.
What are the top 3 things you intend to accomplish if elected, and how will this impact Yolo County?
Yeah, thank you. Well, a few items that I think are key priorities for me. One thing that I would really like to see happen is the creation of a county-wide Office of Equity and Inclusion. There is a complete lack of that kind of a lens that's overcast across or sort of spread about the entire county's operations. And it's something that, especially in light of the issues of both murder of George Floyd and others, back in 2020, there's a real need for Yolo County, a lot of other local governments are doing this, to really actually step up and actually create an Office of Equity and Inclusion that really has an overlay again on all of the county's operations. Additionally, I'm really passionate about, I think there needs to be an advocating. It's one thing for the county to create a youth commission. That's very important. But advocating for a strategic roadmap and sort of strategic plan of regarding youth, families, and children, I think that's essential. But also from sort of these opportunities from cradle to career. Cradle to career. I think we have those opportunities here in Yolo County, especially with UC Davis and the community colleges as well. So I think that's something that's very, very important to me. And then lastly, I think just being a good public servant. Being responsive to constituent concerns, solving problems. I think that is the way sort of to really conduct myself as a public servant and official and really work on solving issues of importance to citizens throughout the county.
Great, thank you. Would either of you like to make a responsive comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to shout out and give some praise to the fact that when we talk about youth empowerment, it's one thing to talk about it, and it's another thing to actually implement it. And I want to wave to my campaign manager, Marlene Garcia, who was a youth leader in launching our climate movement. And when she was invited into the climate action plan process for her voice to explain what diversity, equity, inclusion, how it should be prioritized in City of Davis's own climate action plan, she made a great suggestion, which is work with the schools, partner with the schools. That's how you're going to reach diverse families. That was ignored. So when you bring youth to the table, you need to listen to them. Adults do not listen to youth enough in this community. I've noticed it over and over again. I can assure you, I'm already practicing youth empowerment. It's in the fabric of this campaign. It's front and center in everything I do and organize. So when it comes to youth empowerment, that has got to be a priority, and we're already enacting what it looks like right here in our campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, Mr. Frerichs?
Yeah, just a quick note on cooperatives. I'm a very strong supporter of co-ops as well. I happen to have my Davis Food Co-op bag right here that I brought my campaign materials in today. As a former board member and staffer and board president of the Davis Food Co-op, we need to have as many cooperatives in Yolo County and Davis as we can. And so absolutely support increasing the amount of cooperatives of all type throughout our community. The joke, a lot of people have said to me over the years, oh, what's it like serving on the Davis City Council? And I said, well, if I can survive the board of the Davis Food Co-op, anything is a lot easier after that. So.
Great, thank you. So good, so we're going to turn to some audience questions now. And just a reminder, so Ms. Beck, you'll go first with the audience question, and you'll each have an opportunity to give a 1-minute response, and then we'll have follow-ups of 30 seconds. So if you'll just give me just a couple seconds to look at the questions. I see someone has handwriting just like mine. I feel so much better now. This is good, but I can read it because those of us who can't write clearly can read one another's handwriting. Very good. Okay. Oh, excellent. Great questions. Very good. I'm going to start with this one, and Ms. Beck. The topic of the question is losing UC Davis brain power. And the question is, how can we be more like Palo Alto and Berkeley and retain our top-tier college graduates?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I think it starts with vision. I think Davis has been a place that's innovated. People love living here, right? The green belts, the food co-op, the quality of life. We provide a lot of community resources and community well-being because we've invested and engaged as community residents in hard fights for what this community should look and feel like. When I talk to people about what they see as Davis in 2030 or Yolo County in 2030, they want to see more farming. They want to see access to gardening and community gardening. They want to see more chickens being grown in central places and backyards. They want to see those kinds of things. So I think the quality of life that we offer in Davis and in Yolo County is what's going to attract people to live here, as well as jobs. And the jobs and the career pathways are absolutely essential, but we are not missing opportunities. For example, I recently worked on getting the school board, oops, I gotta stop, thanks.
Okay, all right. You'll have a responsive period of 30 seconds. So, Mr. Frerichs, same question. How can we be more like Palo Alto and Berkeley and retain our top-tier college graduates?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. I think, most recently, Berkeley has been cited as, being anti-student and not providing enough opportunities for its college graduates. So I think there's a lot of work to do. I mean, there's no question, having the MOU, a Memorandum of Understanding between the city, the county, and the university that commits the university to building adequate amounts of housing on campus is a major step forward. I'm not personally that excited about what West Village looks like in terms of it kind of looks like sort of Soviet-era block housing, but they just opened up, over 3,000 beds, in this last year, and so that's something that's actually really, I think, important. The university, and then Orchard Park is also under construction as well. So, I've definitely had a long track record of making sure that we provide. I'm supportive of infill projects in the city, and I think that is definitely something with the new downtown plan coming up here in Davis that's going to be approved later this summer. The opportunity to build additional infill sites and have more residents in the downtown and close to transit, close to the train station, is the exact type of model that we need to be doing now into the future.
Great, thank you. And some responses, Ms.
Sure.
Beck?
So we're talking about the county because we're running for Board of Supervisors. So I wanted to also share that I believe that Yolo County is in a very important position to actually be the center for regenerative, climate smart agriculture for the world. We have all the makings of that right here. We could get to be a carbon neutral county by 2030 using the innovation, using the partnerships that we have with our students and our faculty and our researchers. And that's what's going to attract and keep and retain students and graduate students into the future, is vision and commitment and getting things done, like having this completely carbon neutral, regenerative agricultural oriented county that's known for that renowned worldwide specialty.
Any further responses, Mr. Frerichs?
If we don't have adequate amounts of housing, no matter how great the regenerative agriculture is in the county, I think it's going to be difficult to retain and attract and keep folks here who've come and graduated from UC Davis or any of the sort of nearby universities. So definitely supportive of the need for additional opportunities for appropriate housing.
Thank you. I'll ask this one next, and so forgive me if I'm losing track. So it's Mr. Frerichs first, this one, right? Am I correct? Mr. Frerichs is first this time? Yes. Okay. How would you change how marijuana groves are managed in Yolo County? Consider financial impact and effect on other Yolo farmers.
Right. Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I mean, it's, there's a real need for some balance to happen right now in the county on this issue. In the cities, so each of the cities are sort of taking a different approach, right? In the city of Davis, we've allowed for the bricks and mortar dispensaries and delivery services. In the city of West Sacramento, they have allowed for a lot of the sort of warehousing and distribution of cannabis. And then, of course, in the county, in the rural parts of the county, there's been a lot of actual cultivation going on. But there really needs to be a balanced approach, because what's happening right now is there's a massive overconcentration of cannabis growing, especially affecting the Cape Valley, and which is, of course, one of the major centers in the county, especially for organic small farm agriculture. But it's really, really important that we don't, one of the issues that's happening in the Cape Valley is a lot of these marijuana grows actually have armed guards with AK-47s. I mean, literally guarding them. So there is a real need for the county to make sure there is a balance and make sure that we are good, the cannabis industry is good neighbors to wherever it's being grown in the rural parts of the county.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
Ms. Beck, same question.
Yes, a really important question. It's actually a really big priority for Yochadihi tribe. It's the tribe is its own governance, it's its own nation, and that has its ancestral land and its homeland in the Cape Valley. And they've seen an encroachment of marijuana growing on their land, and they're very concerned about this. So in keeping good relationship with the Yochadihi tribe, the county should absolutely be working to protect protect and defend Indigenous sovereignty and tribal sovereignty, and should also be understanding better what the complaints are and be responsive to the complaints, and to provide the services, the sheriffs, the policing that we need, unfortunately, to address the illicit growing and problems like that. So it absolutely needs a more balanced approach that is exactly what Lucas has been describing.
Great, thank you. Would either of you like to provide a responsive comment on that?
Yeah,
Just
I'm happy to. Just a quick additional point, which is, the county worked on the CLUO, the Cannabis Land Use Ordinance, very diligently for the past couple of years, and it's actually it's in litigation now. It was passed by the County Board of Supervisors. It's in litigation. Yochadihi Tribe was one of the folks, or one of the organizations and entities that sued the county, as well as the Sierra Club, as well as the Farm Bureau. So it's in court right now, and so there's going to be some sort of amount of mitigation that comes out to sort of figuring out a solution going forward that is acceptable to all parties. But I think it's imperative that the county make sure that it's a good partner in this entire process.
Great, thank you. Very good. So next question, and this would be, I'm sorry, it's Mr. Frerichs this time, right? Yes. I should have written, it's Ms. Beck. My apologies. I should note who's been asked. Ms. Beck, you would go first on this one. In the case COVID becomes a threat again and impacts many aspects of our lives, education, health, finances, etc., how would you go about it?
Absolutely, and we are in the middle of a surge. I encourage everyone to be very, very careful, get your vaccinations, take precaution, because the virus is mutating, and we may or may not have the immunity that we hope to have through our vaccination program, which Yolo County had a very successful vaccination program with over 85%, I believe, of farm workers vaccinated, which was phenomenal. So we do need to see how those programs worked and realize that we have to address things at a county-wide level and keep our county public health mobilized and engaged, and not just let the infrastructure or the social infrastructure fall by the wayside, but to actually build on community-based health programs, things like promotadores that are actually going out to community to follow up and work in communities to provide community health benefits, so that they're also more well-rounded. It's not just the vaccinations, but it's health is holistic, and I would bring that holistic approach to health into our county to be more resilient to pandemics in the future.
Great, thank you. And Mr. Frerichs, same question. In the case COVID becomes a threat again and impacts many aspects of our lives, education, health, finances, etc., how would you go about it?
Yeah, one of the sort of most pressing potential issues that we have in terms of decisions in the immediate future is whether or not to sort of ratchet down Healthy Davis and Healthy Yolo together, or to continue it on beyond June 30th. The city council recently put another $750,000 in for continued testing through June 30th. UC Davis is interested in sort of winding the program down, but as we've seen in this past sort of month or two with the increased cases, especially in the past month, there may be a need to extend beyond June 30th. So that innovative program, I think, was a very much an essential reason why Davis and Yolo had much lower rates of COVID than other places anywhere else in the country. I do think, though, so that's one item. I think also it's important for the county. We're very fortunate to have Dr. Amy Sisson be the public health officer for Yolo County. She was essentially run out of Placer County because of their sort of anti-public health stance and anti-masking and anti-sort of COVID protocols stance in Placer. So I would look to her as a major sort of for guidance as to how sort of what steps the county should be taking to sort of fight COVID.
Thank you. Would either of you like to make a responsive comment?
I guess I just wanted to build on, I believe that also the public health should work more closely with the public health department, with the communications to present a message about community well-being and all the aspects of health. So I was very concerned that, for example, during the early stages of the pandemic, that we were told, there was sort of the sense of fear around it. Instead of being told, make sure you go outside for 15 minutes a day, take a walk, take a break, protect your mental health. Instead, people became very isolated and very insular, and that now we're dealing with the consequences of the pandemic and the impacts on children for decades to come. So we really had a step back. So I think we could be more innovative in our approach to taking care of each other and using compassion to drive our public health response.
Okay, thank you. Very good. Next question, and this will be for Mr. Frerichs first. Scientists say we need to make drastic cuts in carbon emissions by 2030. What are the main obstacles to making such cuts or reductions in Yolo County?
I think in part, some of the main obstacles have to do with just people's individual sort of choices and not being willing to sort of take the necessary actions to sort of achieve some of these reductions. Transportation the sector of transportation is a huge component to sort of the greenhouse gas emissions. And so we have to be continuing to do as much as possible to make sure that we are electrifying transportation. That's one area, certainly, but ultimately overall reducing the GHG emissions through, I think there's going to have to be some real choices made, lifestyle choices made about how we are sort of choosing to live in the future. And so thankfully, though, at this point, Yolo County still has a pretty robust climate especially in terms of growing. And while water is, of course, a concern, we've talked about that a lot today, there's, I think, still opportunities to continue to be there's the talk about farm to fork. Well, the farms are all here. And so making sure that Yolo County is this place that's able to be a place that provides food to folks here in our communities, I think is very, very important in the future.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Oh, you're welcome. Great, thank you. And Ms. Beck, same question. Scientists say we need to make drastic cuts in carbon emissions by 2030. What are the main obstacles to making those cuts?
The main obstacles, once again, I'll say leadership. We cannot address the climate crisis if we continue with business as usual. I jumped in the race because I was absolutely it was another reckless decision by the supervisors when they approved the Tykert mining project out at the Cache Creek, lower watershed of the Cache Creek. This is a project that will balloon our greenhouse gas emissions. Totally, it's just absolutely eviscerated and undermined all of our work to achieve carbon neutrality by 2030. So we can't continue making the same kinds of decisions and expect to get better results for our climate. So that's number one. We've got to start making better decisions and have the leadership that actually will stand up to the status quo and be willing to make the hard decisions to change and transition off of fossil fuels.
Great, thank you. Would either of you like to make a responsive comment? Very good, very good. Well, thank you. I had not realized that we were a little bit over time with audience questions, so I'm going to move us back now to our closing statements and move into those. And each candidate will now have 1 minute for a closing statement, and we will begin with Mr. Frerichs because Ms. Beck gave the first opening statement. So Mr. Frerichs, if you'd like to go ahead and make your closing statement.
Well, thank you so much for being here today. And again, thanks to the League of Women Voters and to Davis Media Access for being partners in this event. Really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you all and to have this discussion. I think it's very important for our democracy to do that. I do think it's fairly important now than ever that Yolo has leaders who know how to get things done and who have a demonstrated track record of doing that. And I think it's really important as well that, engaging with regional partners, there are some absolutely pressing issues that we've talked about in our discussion today that I think are critical, that need to be addressed. And a lot of it, frankly, is not going to be done just at the county level alone. It's going to be done in consultation and in collaboration with the cities and so many others, the university, Yochadihi, Tribal Nation, but also throughout the region. And frankly, in consultation and also partnership with our state and federal partners as well, too, not just locally. I've had a track record of the last 10 years of serving on the council. I have the privilege of serving as vice mayor now, and I really look forward to the possibility of serving on the board of supervisors. And I commit to remaining just as responsive and engaged as a supervisor as I have been on the city council, and respectfully ask for your vote. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Frerichs. Ms. Beck?
Thank you. Well, thank you all for sticking with us on this lovely afternoon and listening to what we have to say, because it is the future of our county and the future of our planet at stake in this election. I believe that the vision that I provide for future generations is what's going to actually transition us fairly and justly to a more sustainable place where we can sustain a healthy food system, sustain our water, sustain a high quality of life for future generations. But that will not happen if we continue with business as usual. It will not happen if we don't have bold climate leadership, which I've demonstrated with the Climate Action Commission, which has already adopted over 10 early action proposals. Instead of just waiting for the plan to come out, we've already got some work being done now to address the crisis. I intend to deepen my work and my commitment with the Climate Action Commission and bring a breath of fresh air to a much needed lived experience of women, youth, and families to the Board of Supervisors. I look forward to representing you as District 2 Supervisor. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Ms. Beck. So the audience is just a step ahead of me. So this concludes our closing statements. And we wanted to give you a big round, both candidates, big round of applause. So on behalf of the Davis League of Women Voters, thank you to our candidates. Thank you so much for coming out today and being here. And also to our audience for your participation. We really appreciate it. Thanks also go to the City of Davis for providing the facility, and to Davis Media Access for being a co-sponsor and for recording the forum. There are election materials for both candidates available on the tables outside the door. So please stay safe and enjoy the rest of your lovely weekend. And if you're looking to watch the forum later, it's been recorded by Davis Media Access, and it can be viewed later on the League of Women Voters Davis area website. Thank you all for coming out. Have a great afternoon.